Good afternoon, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest. We are at property address 859 Southeast Elm Street here in Dundee. I describe everything as if you're standing in the street facing the front of the house. We are just to the right of the front doorway. Got a 3-inch ABS clean out. And we're going to check the overall condition and serviceability of the sanitary sewer line. We're getting into here just after a home inspection's finished up. Well, lots of water's been down this. I'm going to introduce some water to the line here in just a moment. So right off the bat here, the line transitions over to cast iron. There's a little bit of a lip exposed on that joint there. It's pretty minor. It's only maybe a 1/4 inch, and sometimes that has more to do with just the difference in the pipe wall thickness. You're meshing up cast iron pipe, which is 1/2 inch to inch thick, depending on the era it was made, with ABS plastic that's about a 1/4 inch or so thick. So depending on what type of piping you're meshing things up with, sometimes you end up with a little bit of a lip on that. Now we're into concrete pipe, and it looks like we remained... Actually, bear with me a second. I've got some sun on my face. Never mind. That looks like ABS there. Kudos to the homeowners. They have kept this line spiffy clean. There is not a speck of grease buildup in this. Very nice to see that. Number one thing that keeps your line this clean is not putting cooking oil or fats in general down the sink. Kitchen sink, especially. That's the main culprit. Alright, there's our main connection. And if all I could nitpick on a house this age is a little tiny 1/4 inch lip on a joint like that, we're doing pretty good. We're gonna go locate really quick here while the line drains out. Alright, located the camera head successfully. Line terminates on the line actually crosses the full width of the roadway. Sorry, bear with me, I'm just jotting some notes down. And the main lateral in this circumstance, unlike most roads, is it's not in the middle of the street. It's actually in the kind of right-of-way area on the opposite side of the road as this. I'm going to get a better view here as we come back in. I had to stand a ways away from my monitor. Actually, this looks like transite. I'm standing about 6 to 8 feet away from my monitor there, just the way where the cleanout's at, where my reel is. This actually looks like transite concrete. It's not ABS, like I originally thought. It's very rare for a black pipe to actually terminate at a main. It's usually only HDPE that does that. Very few towns run that in the roadway or right-of-way. I think what's partially deceiving about it is how clean it is. Normally pipe this age, it's got a little more gunk built up in it. So being that it's transite, what transite is, in general, it usually ages much nicer than standard aggregate concrete. And as a preference, I've cambered almost 25,000 sewer lines at this point in my career. What I like about transite is it remains smooth throughout its lifespan. It doesn't become super rough like regular aggregate concrete. It also has the advantage of having joints every 10 feet versus about every 3. So you have a lot less points of failure for things like roots to penetrate through the sewer line, and the stuff remains smooth up until its last breath. So you don't have the issue of rough pipe material contributing to blockages, which is a very nice thing. But the one thing I will tell you about it, it's an older pipe product, as is your cast iron, obviously. None of this stuff lasts forever. That transite there looks fantastic. I mean, it is spotless clean. It has not shifted a millimeter. Drains out beautifully. It behooves you, especially if this is going to be a home you're going to be in a while, to keep an eye on this thing. I would rescope about every 2 years to monitor the line. Usually the first thing that wears out in especially older pipe materials are the pipe joints. It's just a weak point. That's usually what happens. What you want to watch for are signs that the joint is becoming, or joints are becoming exposed to the ground. If you start to see, earthworms crawling around, little bits of dirt coming through the line, it's at that point you want to start looking at the prospect of an epoxy liner, which is a trenchless repair system. And off the top of my head here, I cannot remember if the city of Dundee takes responsibility in the roadway. If they do, it's really not much for you to have to worry about. But if you're responsible, up to the main lateral connection, for instance, you'd have to check with the city on that. That's where you especially want to keep an eye on things. If you start catching or seeing signs of that occurring, it's the best time to go ahead and do those liners. If you can, the cost difference in updating a sewer line, especially in this circumstance where you potentially could be trenching the entire width of the roadway, versus doing it trenchlessly. Sometimes they have to add in a little bit bigger clean out just in front of this one to do it, but it's a huge cost savings when you don't have to go cutting the whole road open. So just food for thought there. I would look into that just so you know if it's something you need to keep an eye on or not. But as we sit here today, good flow of the main lateral connection. The little offset joint there at about 1 foot into the sewer line is too minor, in my opinion, to require repairs, especially being there's no buildup anywhere in the sewer line for me to even recommend $5 in drain cleaning on this thing. It is superbly clean. Anyhow, sewer line is functioning properly at this time. If you're here long enough to see the rest of the line updated at some point, that would be the time to straighten out that joint on its own. It's too minor to go messing with, in my opinion. I mean, there's not a speck of buildup anywhere on it. So it's the kind of thing that might contribute to a blockage under an abusive scenario. It might help a blockage stick a little bit better. You'd have to already be flushing either abusive items down the line, wipes, paper towels, things like that, and or something so big it's going to block just about anywhere else it sees in the sewer line. That lip might help contribute to something being a little more stubborn, but there's just not enough there to really do much under normal circumstances. So anyhow, sewer line is functioning properly at this time.